Good afternoon and welcome to this act of worship to celebrate the life of our dear friend and colleague, Major Stuart Craig Ashman. I'll extend this welcome to those who are outside in the cold and for those who are going to be watching this later on as it's filmed. Please would you like to take your seats? Glory, glory, Man United. I think, what would serve Stuart any better than coming into Glory, glory, Man United? Probably third or fourth on his list of loves. Glory, glory, Man United as the Reds go marching on. Well, Stuart has gone marching on now to glory to be with his Lord and Saviour. And we're here to celebrate his life and his ministry. David praised the Lord in the presence of the whole assembly, saying, "Praise be to you, Lord, the God of our father Israel, from everlasting to everlasting. Yours, Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the majesty and the splendour. For everything in heaven and earth is yours. Yours, Lord, is the kingdom. You are exalted as head over all. Wealth and honour come from you. You are the ruler of all things. In your hands are strength and power to exalt and give strength to all. Now, our God, we give you thanks and praise your glorious name. Amen. So we are here today to do what it says on your order of service, to celebrate the life of Stuart Craig Ashman. And that is both an easy and a difficult thing to do. Easy because we all knew Stuart, we all loved him, and we knew him to be a very inspirational guy. Stuart has been and will continue to be inspirational as we remember him. A few months ago, Steve and I were privileged to be part of the Cwmbran stay-at-home retreat, and we have memories of Stuart reading this passage of scripture at that time, bearing in mind all that he was going through. He read these words to us: "The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition and thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." So those are the words from Stuart to us this morning. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all our understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Amen. And we know that Stuart didn't just read these words on that occasion, he believed them and he lived them out in his everyday life. And that's why we can celebrate his life, who he was and how he lived. As for the two S's on his uniform, safe to save, safe to serve, tick. Stuart didn't just wear them for show or just to look good, or that's because that's what we wear in the Salvation Army. He wore them because he lived his life to serve others and to save others, to bring people into saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. That's the easy part of the celebration. The hard part is because, to be honest, we want him to be here with us. We want him to be here with Paula and his family. We need people like Stuart in our lives, don't we? Those inspirational, lovely, godly people. And so today, in our Thanksgiving, we especially think of the family Stuart loves so much. We've been looking at the photos on the screen. You'll see just what a family man he was. That's that lovely family of his, Paula particularly, Ryan and Nicole, Simon and Jenny, his mum, his three little sisters, Wendy, Karen and Kirsty, his nephews and nieces. That big family that Stuart really loved. And of course, not forgetting his 5 fabulous grandchildren, whom he wants Paula and the boys to remind them on a regular basis just how much he loved them. Stuart was a family man. He loved his family, always perking up whenever he saw them. And actually, whenever we saw him speaking about his family, he would perk up. He loved them so much. Simon and Jenny, with their 2 children, Tyler and Byron. Ryan and Nicole, with their 3, Ollie, Kian and Ophelia, also known as Granddad's little princess. The only girl amongst all those boys. As a family, the Ashmans would always sit around the table to share food together so they could chat with the boys to see how their days had gone. The adventurous stuff like playing games, bike riding, going to football, barbecue, swimming, that was Stuart's domain. He loved those moments with his boys. Breaking the rules, like sitting on the work surfaces when they weren't meant to, chilling out, well that was more Paula's relaxed domain. Stuart lived life to the full, that's for sure. And again, if you've been looking at the photos on the screen, you will know that Stuart lived life to the full. Let's pray together. We thank you, Lord, that you understand, that you've lived this life. You've known sweat, tears, frustration and sadness, known wonder, laughter, satisfaction and joy. You're not a God who's remained distant, but one who has walked in this dust, felt the heat and cold of the world warming and chilling your bones. Thank you, Lord, that you understand. You're a God who knows what it is to be human, having lived through childhood and teenage years, having worked and lived in oppressive times, having been misunderstood and celebrated, knowing what it is to have enough and to be empty, knowing love and loss, hate and rejection. Thank you, Lord, that you understand, that you are the one who can help us, having drawn close and known the ways of life, knowing us better than we know ourselves, understanding when we trip up yet again, saying and doing the wrong things, the harmful things, the ridiculous things. Thank you, Lord, that you understand and can help us at this time. So we take this moment now to come to you and offer all that we are, knowing that you know how we feel today. Just take a moment to make your own prayers, to think your own thoughts. We offer all that we are today, knowing you know how we feel. In your precious name, we make our prayers. Amen. We can't sing, of course, but there are songs, and the words will come up on the screen. I know how hard it is to be in worship and not sing. But as you reflect on the words that we're going to come up in just a moment, reflect for yourself. One of Stuart's favourite songs talks about his faith. So as we listen, let's worship God with these words. In Christ alone, my hope is found.
In Christ alone, my hope is found. You took a flash, fullness of God in helpless babe. This gift of love and righteousness, scorned by the ones He came to save. Till on the cross, yes, Jesus died. The wrath of God was satisfied. For every sin on Him was laid. Here in the death of Christ I live. There in the ground His body lay, light of the world by darkness slain. Then bursting forth in glorious day, out from the grave He rose again. And as He stands in victory, since Christ has lost its grip on me. For I am His, and He is mine, bought with the precious blood of Christ. No guilt in life, no fear in death. This is the power of Christ in me. From life's first cry to final breath, Jesus can move my destiny. And no power of hell, no scheme of man can ever pluck me from His hand. Till He returns or calls me home. Here in the heart of Christ I'll stand. And no power of hell, no scheme of man can ever pluck me from His hand. Till He returns or calls me home. Here in the heart of Christ I'll stand.
We wanted you to have it again so that you could read those words, you could hear those words, and know that that's how Stuart lived his life. And he's sharing that same victory now with Jesus. And hopefully on one day we'll get to share that same victory. You know, as I was watching that and listening to it, I was wondering why the technology that's worked perfectly well all morning fails at a time like this. But you know, it's powerful just to sit and listen sometimes, isn't it? To see it there on the screen for us. We're going to listen now as Rachel brings a tribute on behalf of the Lord. Rachel.
Stuart is a family man. Just how obvious is it that Stuart was born in 1970? The photos are known to shout 70s with those fashions and a TV in the background of one. Dad's 70s moustache, which apparently was not very popular with Mum. Stuart has spoken so often of his childhood, the oldest boy with those three girls, but there was always love in his house. And just so often he'll mention some snippet. For example, his dad often sang the solo, They Need Christ, which caused Stuart to love that song all his life. Jackie, his mum, has come up here quite a few times now, which has brought Stuart joy. A lovely warm person, she's fitted right in here. The boys, Simon and Ryan with their partners and those precious, gorgeous grandchildren, have brought Stuart some many, many smiles and happy times. The fruit to say all, I think. Stuart the Traveller. Now, you've probably seen the photo already on the screen of the passport. I'm not a passport forger, but I did happen to have the photo of Stuart's passport from a holiday booking I made. And as is traditional with the passport photo, really doesn't look much like him at all. I guess it's the glasses. Fakenham, Haverhill and Clacton have become very much part of our vocabulary because that's the trip Stuart has taken countless times in order to visit his family. The nearest one, I think, is 3.5 hours away, and the other's 4.5 hours. Being Stuart, he likes to make the most of every day. So they have visited every possible destination between them and Cwmbran. His style of tour is, I will research everything, we will see everything, and I will walk your feet off. I did find a picture of them on an open top city tour bus. That was a shock. In conversation, I had mentioned several times that the first thing I would do if I had a new car was go to Disneyland Paris. One day, Stuart said, what if your friend had a new car? Would you go? Oh, it was an absolute yes. So I was able to extend Stuart's travelling horizons a bit further. Do you remember when he told us the sheep story? He had gone on holiday to a cottage in North Wales, and someone had left the gate open, so he had had to walk within a flock of sheep to get it shut again. That would be fine, except he doesn't like furry things near him at all. Just thinking about all those sheep's bodies, touching his legs makes me smile. A week in the sun has been their way of relaxing, and the fabulous pictures of their foreign adventures show how much pleasure they have had. Stuart's tattoos. When you think of what tattoos represent, Stuart had his principal points painted on him. On his upper arm, he had the names of Paula, their sons, and the grandchildren, and the little ones were added when they were in Cwmbran. On his chest was his beloved Manchester United crest. A lifelong supporter, he followed them so emotionally, and one of his favourite pleasures was to see a live match, cheer and sing with the crowd. He travelled up on the supporters bus and immersed himself in the atmosphere and the occasion. I think he was always careful to pick games he thought they would win. Victory is always the icing on the cake. He would often wear a Man U top, and his favourite colour obviously was red. I included a photo of Alex Ferguson, Eric Cantona there is, his all-time hero, and the current manager, Ole Solskjaer, two of his favourite men in the world. On his calf was a scooter, quite new. He and his father were scooter enthusiasts, just one bond between these two close men. His dad had expressed the desire to get this particular scooter tattoo, and Stuart then wanted one to match. As it happened, Stuart got the tattoo as a memory of his father. Stuart's WhatsApp profile picture was him out on the mountain on the scooter. Just the wind in his face and the scenery and the quiet appeal to him. Sometimes he'd do 65 miles just on a drive round. Sometimes before he knew it, he'd have driven an hour and then have to face an hour back. Time just faded when he was basically winding out. And the most recent tattoo was the lion head that filled his lower leg. Revelation 5:5 was the text. Fear not, for the Lion of Judah has triumphed. Stuart the husband. It's almost impossible to think of Stuart without Paula. They've celebrated their 20th wedding anniversary this year. Anybody who has ever been with them outside the core building would see how they held hands, how Stuart would always be looking out for her, just softly touching her. The only time they don't hold hands is if they are wearing wool gloves, because the one thing that puts his teeth on edge. He adored Paula and said to me that their song is the Whitney Houston song, I Will Always Love You. Her keyring says, keep calm, I will always love you. Paula actually had 4 tapes of love songs that romantic Stuart gave her. The first film they saw in the cinema was Ghost. Great choice. Paula says that when they were courting, he would play tunes on his cornet for her. She loved to watch his fingers pressing the valves up and down. In recent days, some days Stuart couldn't get comfortable anywhere except bed. He fought against it so hard because being upstairs all the time meant that he didn't see Paula enough. As they worked together, Stuart and Paula had got their roles down to a fine art. Each played to their own strengths in support of the other. Paula said that Stuart had prepared everything for this time, written everything down for her, highlighted details, and tried to think of everything to help her. I can't count how many times he has told me that Paula is amazing, how much he appreciated her. I think many people could learn a heap about romance from Stuart. Stuart and Twooty. Stuart has been a good dieter in his time, and this has made him a really good cook. I liken him to Delia, but he doesn't like that because she supports Norwich. Of all the texts we have sent each other, I think about a quarter of them have been about food, dreaming of food, going somewhere to eat food, cutting down on calories in food, the joy of food. Stuart would often suggest places to eat. One of his absolute musts is Trios in Pontywydd. What a great place that is. He would also recommend the vanilla slices from a bakery in Usk. In a restaurant, I predict he would go for the cheesecake, but any other time it has to be ice cream. Sometimes it would be the agony of choice in one of those ice cream parlours with wonderful flavours. But he was just as happy with a McFlurry anyway. The one thing he wouldn't have is cucumber, his most loathed taste. And the one thing he shouldn't have is coffee, as he is the world's worst sleeper. A gym enthusiast, Stuart would use those wakeful early morning starts to work out in the gym. Quite often he would mistake the time, think it was 6:30, so get up for the gym, only to find it was 5:30. His eyesight wasn't always the best, so I got him a speaking clock, so we would always know the actual time. And I don't know if it was such a good thing afterwards, because he would always want to know the time on every one of the 20 times he woke up in the night. When Stuart was unable to use the gym anymore, he switched the funds to Sky Sports, turning a grave disappointment into a new pleasure, a luxury he hadn't allowed himself previously. Stuart loves cinema. He and his dad have always loved the pictures, and in fact, the last thing his dad ever said to him was, "No more pictures for us, sweetheart." Now, Graham has always told our officers to ensure that they plan a day off every single week, because it's such an intense job that has no finishing time. So Stuart and Paula chose Tuesday, which turned out to be perfect, as the 2-for-1 cinema offer is Tuesday. Stuart loves a bargain, never wastes any money on what he calls cut, so that he can treat himself to something more pleasurable. Living as close as we do to the Cardiff theatres meant he could also nurture his love for musical theatre. It was fun to introduce him to some plays he had not known. I think I also introduced him to the joy of audiobooks, so that when you haven't got time to read, you can multitask while listening to the book. I know that he and Paula really enjoyed all the James Peterson and Lee Child books particularly. If I recommended an author, he would always give it a go. The downside of having Tuesday off is that Stuart would run Mondays full of appointments, tasks and meetings, enough to last 2 days for a normal person. Stuart is super smart and has an immense active vocabulary. Whatever has happened, he always picks the best word ever to respond. When I compliment him on his quality vocabulary, he always says, "There's a lot where that came from." He's even reviewed 2 Christian books in recent years. What a great knowledge and experience of God's word he has had. Stuart the fun guy. Stuart was always sending me things to make me laugh. They would be seasonal or similar themes for a while, lots of minions, as you know that Stuart is a minion. Blackadder quotes, Peanuts and Charlie Brown just as examples. So I would try to reciprocate. One day on holiday this August, we found a website for a poo museum. We had a good laugh over some of the reviews, and Stuart said he wondered what they would sell in the gift shop. We did laugh. Some days he jokingly wondered if we were going to visit the museum. I replied that sadly it was shut for refurbishment, except I typed the word shut wrong. Imagine the hilarity. I was glad to have made him laugh so hard. I did send him lots of dentist-related memes to make him laugh. He really did have an awful lot of toothache and extractions and treatments in a small space of time. Stuart adores 80s music and has often gone to live gigs. He has seen Madness, who he adores, The Feeling, Adele, and Ollie Murs, all within recent years. He did tell me that his feet had started to hurt from all the standing and dancing, so he might be tired from it. He was not averse to dancing around the kitchen if the right music was on. I did fail at trying to convert him to strictly dancing, however. I know nothing about the PS4, except that Stuart would play on it if he had free time, which made it an impossible mission too often, except when we had snow. It's hard to surprise Stuart. When he was 50 in May, I made 50 cards with 50 written on them to hide in his garden. Off we set in the pitch dark on the empty roads of lockdown. We had a plan to be in and out in 1 minute. It was like the film Mission Impossible trying to enter the vault. We should have worn black ski suits really, but might have got arrested. The security light for the hall went on, making us jump out of our skin. But there was no movement from the house, so we thought we'd done it. Yay! But then when I texted telling me I had a birthday challenge, he admitted he'd actually seen us all. Stuart and Paul love Harry Potter and have lots of gorgeous collectibles in their home. As the books came out when the children were young, many families about our age have grown up with the stories. I can't really think of a better story to love. Boy with special skills and his friends, one a clever swot, and the other a loyal, simple lad, fight against evil. Sounds a lot like Stuart and his friend Stuart. All differently skilled, trying to win against evil. We did visit the Harry Potter experience, and there's a photo showing us having a great time. Stuart would always choose a helpful quote or meme for every situation. When we were locked in with snow one winter, he sent me this. Rest is a weapon given to us by God. The enemy hates it because he wants you stressed and busy. The snow did give us some rest. The current situation has also given us time for rest. Try and see it as a weapon. Stuart and the Salvation Army. If you ask Stuart about his life before he was an officer, he tells you about the jobs he had and the facts of it all, but he only really glows with retelling when he gets to the part where he entered the training college. It's like he always knew what he was meant to be, and true joy came when he fulfilled his calling. The first time we met Stuart properly after the welcome meeting was on the bus with the band going off to Gwahanol. Mark was driving, and Stuart was sitting behind me and Wendy, and we talked and chatted and laughed. Who then knew that we would never stop chatting, that we would have so much to talk about? It's so rare for someone to come into your life who improves it. Our world is a better place with him in it. On that occasion, he was asked to pray, and he spoke for a few minutes, and the gist of it was that if we're not here to praise God, then we might as well pack up and go home. I've heard him say it on other occasions too. The thing is for Stuart, he was all in, and didn't want to waste time on the wrong things. Now, Stuart would never big himself up, so I didn't really know that he'd been a YP band leader at one time. Encouraging and nurturing the young people comes so naturally to him. I'm sure that he would have been great at it too. I only knew he could play the guitar when he brought it for a joint churches event, as he wanted to use a modern chorus that didn't have a full piano part available. Obviously, he was really good. You might not know because he doesn't show. that he's never been all that keen on band and banding. When he was in the training college, he would drive the minibus instead of band practice until someone called him out on it. He was happy to play when witnessing practice in the street or town though. I admired the way that he supported our band in the recent times so that we could still function and practice with an experienced first-corner player, especially as it meant that he did not have the strength for songsters, which he far preferred. He prioritised our needs against his own wants. Oh, that voice. When you hear Stuart sing the tenor part in the song, Your Grace Still Amazes Me, it gives you goosebumps. The other song that I hear him sing in my mind is It Is Well With My Soul. You won't hear it sung better by anyone. The pity is that we haven't got any recordings, and the current situation has made it more obvious that we should have recorded more. Stuart had a deep love for the people of this hall. He would often embrace you, say something very Essex like, give me some sugar. And as you walked away, the smell of his fragrance would still be on you, and you would notice it much later. Just like that fragrance, Stuart would leave his influence on you. His words and message would go with you and help you well into the next week. It cost him to love us like that. He was so excited one day as he had had a message from Ryan to say they had a new car and they were thinking of coming here. He almost didn't dare to hope. So when they arrived on a Sunday evening, he had never been happier. They met all the core folk and stayed overnight. Just Ollie and Kiernan, as Alia came later. The following day, Stuart texted me to say that I had probably heard his heart breaking all the way from my house in Cwmbran when they left. How easy it would have been for Stuart to work near his family, to have all the time he wanted with those babies, to help his son out. He chose us. He chose to go where he was sent and carry out the Lord's work, and he never faltered from that. In fact, when he was first told that he could not be cured, someone said that they would come and get him to take him back home. He said to me that day that he was very touched by it, but the person hadn't realised that Cwmbran was his home. Jacqueline said to me only the other day, Stuart loved the over 60s. You could see it in his face when we were with him, how much he thought of us. He would often text me on a Monday and say what a great afternoon they had had. He had those lovely photos on his phone of them all having afternoon tea on the back patio. When my mum and Pat went on the Salisbury Reserve, he texted me this. It always amazes me how faithful people are. What a blessing. It's so comforting to know that he found us to be a blessing. Stuart was always popular with the young children. When they were little, Erin, Kyle and Elia always wanted to be spun around or to play hide and seek with him. Children are a great judge of character. One blessing is that we will never forget Stuart's teaching and wisdom because we will always be able to watch the videos on YouTube. It's such a testament to his commitment to the work of the Lord and to us as his people that he recorded messages up to 3 weeks before he went to heaven. It is said that William Booth once sent a telegram to officers around the world to remind them of the focus of their work. It contained only one word, others. When I think of Stuart, that encapsulates him entirely. However busy, however tired, however poorly, it's all been about others. Stuart has always been integral within the community, even to the point of organised liturgican, so he could witness absolutely everywhere. To make the message widely available to others, he sold the walk around town. Through his contacts in places like Asda, he set up so many ministry opportunities. He had recently joined street pastors as he believed a minister should be one of the members. The long-term training course he signed up for took him away several times. Why? So his ministry would be better, to benefit us, to benefit others. He had a God-given gift of loving other people. It's not often that a man like him comes into your life, a rare and exceptional man. When he felt so weak and ill, he did an online course to teach himself how to burn CDs so that others without internet could hear the worship. It was great to see him fortnightly when he drove around to deliver the Bible thoughts, the army publications, and some treats. It took him over 3 hours the second time because the sun was out, and everyone was so pleased to see him and Paula. If you tried to categorize Stuart, you'd have to say, adoring family man, proud Englishman, scooter-riding mod, Man United maniac, film buff, 80s music enthusiast, Harry Potter fan, ice cream devourer, fabulous friend, hearing minister. I was going to say that he is so many different things that you can't put him in a box. Then I thought of how he would be in a box with us here today and what a ridiculous thing it is to say. But I decided to say it anyway, because Major Stuart Ashman of the Salvation Army Cwmbran is not in that box. He is promoted to glory and is now with the Lord God himself, wearing a robe of white and a crown of gold. In the box is the broken body that was not good enough for Stuart Ashman, because he was not broken, not destroyed, not defeated. We love the body that he wore while he was with us, but he doesn't need it now. It's left here so we can respectfully gather and praise God that we knew him, that he knew us and loved us anyway. This world is a poorer place now. Soldier of Christ, Major Stuart Ashman, you have fought the fight. You have finished the race. You have kept the faith. Well done.
Thank you, Rachel. What a great tribute. What a great guy. I think one of your lines, Rachel, was you can't think about Stuart without thinking about Paula. And I do know Cwmbran Corps to be a loving, caring corps. And I want to charge you all really to love and care for Paula over these next, however long she's with you for. Thank you. The Bible reading that's been chosen today actually follows on so well from what you just said, Rachel, the way that you ended your tribute. It's from 2 Corinthians chapter 4 to 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10. Therefore we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, what is unseen is eternal. Now we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal home in heaven, not built by human hands. Meanwhile we grow, longing to be clothed with our heavenly dwelling, because when we are clothed we will not be found naked. For while we are in this tent, we groan and are burdened, because we do not wish to be unclothed, but be clothed with our heavenly dwelling, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. Now it is God who has made us for this very purpose, and has given us the Spirit as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. Therefore, we are always confident, and know that as long as we are at home in the body, we are away from the Lord. We live by faith, not by sight. We are confident, I say, and would prefer to be away from the body and at home with the Lord. So we make it our goal to please him, whether we are at home in the body or away from it. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may receive what is due to him for the things done while in the body, whether good or bad. Amen.
We've received a letter. It's from Cultural Commissioner, Territorial Development. Let me read it for you. On the occasion of the funeral of Major Stuart Ashman, I respectfully salute his record of officer service in the Salvation Army and join with other Salvationists in thanking God for his leadership and ministry. We rejoice that Stuart is being accorded the highest of awards, promoted to glory, and at the same time offer our sincere sympathy to Stuart's wife, Major Ashman, his sons Simon and Ryan, and all of their family. Pray that God's peace may be theirs in their bereavement. I would want to recognise too the service given in appointments throughout these past 22 years. Stuart entered the Salvation Army Training College from Clapton Court in September 1996 as a member of the Builders of the Kingdom Session of Cadets and was commissioned in May 1998. Upon commissioning, Stuart was appointed to Cwmbran Court. This was followed by further court appointments at Haverhill, Kings Lynn, Fakenham in Bristol, and Cwmbran, from where he is called home. Doubtless there are colleagues who will possess cherished memories of the blessing received and the interest shown to them by both Stuart and Paula through his public ministry and personal ministry. Very few will be able to attend and be present today, and their very attendance at the funeral service will be their own silent tribute. We will be thinking of those who gather, remembering them in prayer, and thanking God for sacred memories of Stuart. He writes, "It has only been in the last couple of years that Stuart and I became acquainted. Initially at the divisional retreat, his positivity was infectious, his encouragement gracious, and his faith powerful, in spite of, or perhaps because of the health challenges he was facing. I could see that his life dedicated to God was being blessed by the one who received the offering of his whole being as a living sacrifices. Now he is with his Lord and his Master, entering into that state of eternal bliss. We know that death is not the end. The very resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ means it's not the end. A deep understanding of sadness and grief at this time is ours, of course. The human separation is compensated for, and our hope of everlasting life. Consequently, while we may be overwhelmed with loss, we celebrate a life well lived, with a continuing rejoicing that Christ is victorious and that Stuart shares in that victory today. Hallelujah. And so on behalf of territorial leaders from days past and my colleagues at territorial headquarters, Jill joins me as I send affectionate greetings and add my sincere appreciation for all that has been achieved in the earthly life of Major Stuart Ashman, servant of God. Well done. May Paula, Simon and Ryan and their loved ones know a deep sense of peace this day and in the days that lie ahead. God bless you. God bless you. You really sense that he knew Stuart. However few times he met him, he knew him. He recognised what we recognised when we met Stuart. We were with him. And we're going to listen to a song now. People need the Lord. This kind of, again, is one of those things that sums up in song who Stuart was. People need the Lord. He knew that. He lived as if that was true. And incredibly, just I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago when he was in hospital, he was in a bit of a confused state, and he rang Kim because he was really concerned with people on a boat that were being trafficked, on a train. Really concerned that the train was going to leave and they would be taken hostage and taken into trafficking. And he was really concerned. And that kind of, even in his confused state, what was revealed was the heart of this man. Others, it's just a word. But when you live it out, it changes everything, doesn't it? So as we listen to this song, let's rejoice in that's how Stuart lived his life. But let's also be challenged that people still need the Lord. So let's see what happens when we click this.
Every day they pass me by, I can see in their eyes, and deeply born filled with care. They move where on they go through private pain, living fear to fear. Laughter hides their silent cries. Only Jesus hears. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. At the end of broken dreams is the open door. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. When will we realize people need the Lord? We are called to take His light to a world where wrong seems right. What could be too great a cost for sharing life with one who's lost? Through His love, our hearts can feel all the grief they bear. They must hear the words of life only we can share. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. At the end of broken dreams, He's the open door. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. When will we realize that we must give our lives for people need the
Stuart, he was the same wherever he was, whoever he was with, and and whatever he was doing. Isn't that true? And it's not a surprise for me that Paul had chosen these words today either. From 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and some of chapter 5. I just want to read them again. I want to read them from the Message version. So let me read them slowly. And as I read them, I wonder if it comes to mind. So we're not giving up. How could we? Even though on the outside it often looks like things are falling apart on us, on the inside where God is making new life, not a day goes by without His unfolding grace. These hard times are small potatoes compared to the coming good times, the lavish celebration prepared for us. There's far more here than meets the eye. The things we see now are here today, gone tomorrow. But the things we can't see now will last forever. For instance, we know that when these bodies of ours are taken down like tents and folded away, they will be replaced by resurrection bodies in heaven. God made, not handmade, and we'll never have to relocate our tents again. Sometimes we can hardly wait to move, and so we cry out in frustration. Compared to what's coming, living conditions around here seem like a stopover in an unfurnished shack, and we're tired of it. We've been given a glimpse of the real thing, our true home, our resurrection bodies. The Spirit of God whets our appetite by giving us a taste of what's ahead. He puts a little of heaven in our hearts so that we'll never settle for less. That's why we live with such good cheer. You won't see us drooping our heads or dragging our feet. Cramped conditions here don't get us down. They only remind us of the spacious living conditions ahead. It's what we trust in, but don't yet see, that keeps us going. Do you suppose a few ruts in the road or rocks in the path are getting to stop us? When the time comes, we'll be plenty ready to exchange exile for homecoming. But neither exile nor homecoming is the main thing. Cheerfully pleasing God is the main thing. And that's what we aim to do, regardless of our conditions. Sooner or later, we'll all have to face God, regardless of our conditions. We will appear before Christ and take what's coming to us as a result of our actions, either good or bad. Oh, there's so much we could say about that. But this phrase, cheerfully pleasing God, is the main thing. And that's what we aim to do regardless of conditions. Stuart, mate, that's what you did. You sought to keep God, pleasing Him as the main thing, regardless of your conditions. And we want to say thank you for that, because you gave us a glimpse of Jesus in your life. At most funerals, I use this story because I believe that the sentiment is true. Here it is. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of his friend. He referred to the dates on his friend's tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of his birth, in Stuart's case the 31st of May 1970, and spoke of the following date with tears, the 4th of the 10th, 2020. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years, for that dash represents all the time that he spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved him and knew him know what that little life is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So today, guess what? We're here. We're here to remember and celebrate Stuart's dash. Far too short, to be honest. But we're going to celebrate it anyway. And everyone's dash is different. Everyone's dash can kind of be given a different title to kind of sum that life up. I could kind of think of just one word. You might start to think of your word now. I thought a few words that could sum up Stuart's dash. Influencer, loving, caring, courageous, faithful, generous, encourager, challenger, kind, helpful, talented, all these and more. So have you got any? What are your words that sum up Stuart's dash today? And what about these words from Galatians 5:22? In the rewritten words of a guy called Bob Lacey, instead of just calling them the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, etc. Maybe these words are for Stuart. If God's Spirit is in you, then this is you. You're loving, alive, vibrant, sparkling. You're calm. You walk into a room and friction walks out. You can handle delays. You're not pushy. You're generous with money, with time, with people. You're good and solid, always ready to help. You don't double-cross people. You don't use your fists in anger. You don't lose your rag. You're in control. You're never in trouble with the police. I hope that's the case. I didn't ask. That's you. You're connected with the liberated Jesus and you've murdered your dogs like this must-have attitude. Now that we're living with God's Spirit, let's get our heartbeat in rhythm with His. Let's not get cocky, competitive, or jealous. Alive, sparkling, loving. You walk into a room and friction walks out. Doesn't that describe Stuart's dash? One thing is for sure. Stuart was the genuine article, the real thing. No imitation, no fakes. And I just thank God for the time Kim and I have spent in Stuart's dash. For always, and he did this in such an amazing way, always bringing things back to the main thing. The main thing, Jesus. Challenging in the right way and encouraging at the same time, saying, no, don't forget about Jesus. People need the Lord. Stuart will never fully know the positive impact he has had on those who knew him. So we leave Stuart in the hands of the one who healed the blind, the one who broke the loaves and the fish to feed 5,000 plus people, the one who reached out to the lost, whoever they were, the one who blessed the children, the one who washed the disciples' feet. We leave Stuart in the hands of the one who told the religious leaders, let him who is without sin throw the first stone. And one by one they dropped theirs and left. We leave Stuart in the hands of the one who reached out to Peter as he began to sink after taking a step or two on the water. Stuart will be met by the one who carried a cross through the streets of Jerusalem to a place called Golgotha. The one that was nailed to that cross. The one who bore and still does the scars of those nails. The one Thomas didn't touch in the end, but who still believed Jesus to be his Lord and his God. The one who said, the one who proved that God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Oh, I just wonder how many people experience God's love for the world, for them, through how Stuart lived his life. Wherever he was, whoever he was with, and whatever he was doing. One recent story, that short story that sums up both Stuart and Paula for me, is one that happened recently. All the officers in South and Mid Wales Division have been prayerfully and thoughtfully considering the question, now what? Now what? As the world we wake up to every day is hurting, struggling with loneliness, worried, scared, grieving, and so many more words we could use to describe what we're going through. What should church look like now? What is God doing now in what we sometimes feel is just a load of rubble? How is God working in the chaos? How can he rise from the chaos? Isaiah 43:18, see, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the desert and streams in the wasteland. Where did Paul consider this? Where did they undertake this task? Was it in the comfort of their own home? Was it in the church building? No, it was in a room in a hospital just over a week ago. Doesn't that sum up these people? Doesn't it sum up Stuart? Now what? He still wanted to think about it, because he was still thinking of others. What a challenge. But now what for Stuart? Well, God is making everything new, as he tells us in Revelation 21. And I don't believe God lies. And there's so much more we could say about Stuart. But one thing's for sure, the world would be a poor place without him. But what a legacy he has left. Just take a look at his spiritual family today. The people outside. The amount of people that just wanted to fill this place and fill the road but couldn't because of the situation we're in right now. He's left a legacy that will go on and on. I recently read about a man called Bob and what Bob's God is like. And I suddenly thought, this actually describes Stuart's God too. And maybe this is why Stuart lived as he did. Because Stuart's God is approachable, articulate, and artful. A glowing God of graceful inclination. Stuart's God snowboards cloudscapes and paints daisies on his toes while watching Chaplin reruns on his iPad. He smiles at cats and children, jumps in puddles with his shoes on. Stuart's God doesn't shoot his own wounded or blame the poor for failing in prosperity. He doesn't beat the broken with bruised reeds from their garden or tell the sick that healing's their responsibility. Stuart's God is a poet, painting people as his poems, a sculptor shaping symphonies from stone, a maker of mosaics, curator of collages woven from the wounds and wonders we have known. He's a furnace of forgiveness. Stuart's God radiates love and laughter, lending light to the helpless and the harmed and the heavy-hearted. In the struggle for my soul, in the race for my respect, Stuart's God wins, absolutely. And because he wins, guess what? So is Stuart. It may not feel like it right now. Hopefully it does, but maybe it doesn't. But he has. He fought the good fight and he's won. He's been promoted to glory. And as Revelation tells us, God is making everything new. He's wiping away his tears. What a phrase in this book. God himself will be with them and be their God. He'll wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order things has passed away. He who was seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. Then he said, write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. He said to me, to John that is, it is done. I'm the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. To him who is thirsty, I will give to drink without cost from the spring of the water of life. He who overcomes will inherit all this, and I will be his God, and he will be my son. Oh, John is old when he writes these words. His body's weak. The journey's taken its toll. His friends are gone. Peter's dead. Paul's been martyred. But in this final mountaintop encounter, it's like God just pulls back the curtains and allows John and us to take a look at our homeland, the place where Stuart is gone. So these words are for Stuart and for us. You see, we don't like to see places grow old and shabby. It's hard, isn't it? To see those we love suffer in pain and sick is really tough, especially not being able to help. But we're told here that God is making everything new, including Stuart, not refurbished, but made new. Oh, it would be great to be able to make everyone new down here, but we can't. However much we'd like to, but God can. In heaven, God can and does. David wrote, he restores my soul. He doesn't reform, he restores. He doesn't camouflage the old, he restores the new. The Apostle John says that when we get home, God himself will wipe away our tears. The hands that stretched out the heavens will touch Stuart's cheeks, the same hands that killed in agony as the Roman spikes cut through, now hold Stuart's face and brush away his tears. If he had any, he's probably still smiling. There'll be no reason to cry or mourn. There'll be no more death threats, John. Imagine that, a world with no hearses or morgues or cemeteries or tombstones. A world with no names chiseled into marble, but names written in the book of life. Wow. In his book, The Applause of Heaven, Max Lucado writes this: before you know it, your arrival time will come. You'll descend the ramp and enter the city of heaven. You'll see faces that are waiting for you. You'll hear your name spoken by those who love you. And maybe, just maybe, in the back behind the crowds, one who would rather die than live without you will remove his pierced hands and from his heavenly robe, applaud. Applaud. Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. Psalm 116, verse 15. That's Stuart's now what? But what will yours be? I've got to ask, because when I get there, that may be the first question. Did you challenge those days? Those listening if they're outside or on the video? What's your now what? For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. That can be a reality for all of us, if we want it to be. Or in the words of Aussie Dave, somebody on Facebook, Jesus didn't just die to forgive us. He rose to live through us. Amen. Stuart, well done, good and faithful soldier. And just maybe we'll meet you there. If we accept the now what of you coming to save us, we just want to give you all the praise, Jesus. And I've just noticed behind me, or just in front of me, that something's gone wrong. So we're going to, first of all, clap. Clapping has actually become a thing, isn't it? Thursday nights, I kind of miss those nights when we got to meet community to celebrate those on the national health, those other people on the front line. Well, I feel we should stand and just applaud Stuart for who he is and who he was, and in doing that, we're just thanking God for him. So let's do that together. We've also got to do one more thing, because I'll be told off at some point. He wouldn't want us just to end applause for him. He would want us to applaud his Saviour and his God. So let's do that before we hear the tune of All Hail the Power. Let's clap.